whether or not my dog is ready or okay with me typing. We're gonna just get in it because days ticking away from us. I was awake for fucking 24 hours yesterday. I was sick the whole day before, like literally the whole day, like straight up 24 hours in bed, didn't eat shit. So I kind of made up for that. Got a lot done yesterday, like a fuck ton. A lot on stream, a lot off stream. It's a full day. I think I'm back into the regular swing of things. I don't know how long I'm actually going to stream every day, or exactly, you know, like what the plan as far as streaming schedule or anything like that goes. But we're going to play it by ear. We're going to get as much up, be on as much as possible in general. Ideally, I stream all day. You know, that would be the best case scenario, because besides doing game development, I do want to offer things like the ability for people to ask very specific questions that I can take time to answer, kind of like an office hours situation. Can talk about lots of different things, programming and non-programming related. I think a lot of these are good options. So let's start by showing you where I left off. Although this one failed to place the switch. There we go, okay. So we got a good switch here, right? Check it. You see that spiked tile right here? Well, that spiked tile is wired up to this switch. So one thing that we're able to do check out what happens with the enemy. It just straight up dies. And when we flip the switch down, the spike tiles disappear and the dude beneath it is able to walk on top. Now, an interesting kind of detail that I want to work out is the fact that if I switch the tile up, like if I switch the spikes back up and there's a dude on top of it, this is something I just discovered, he doesn't get damaged. So I think that's something I want to actually happen. If a tile changes to another tile while that entity is on top of it, then an effect has to get applied. Like, we have to be able to go through any of the entities that are NPCs on the tile. There should only be one NPC per tile, but we need to be able to go through and check to see if there is an NPC on the tile, and if there is, he needs to incur some sort of damage, right? Before I continue, I'm going to go ahead and pull the chat up, as well as set up a few things in YouTube Studio. Yo, what's up, Dulce? Glad to see you again. How are you doing? All right, I got that set up. I can read the chats, and we're good to go. Let me ask you, Dulce, if I type this, can you read this chat? I think it should broadcast to all three platforms that I have wired up, which is Discord, YouTube, and Twitch. And at some point, I'm gonna get the link out to people who want to join the Discord. I do also plan on setting up a Patreon again soon. But so there's this is a great time for the game because Raylib is setting up their 2025 showcase, and they want 10-second videos demonstrating or showcasing something that you might be working on, which I think we are in a great position to show 10 seconds of anything right now, right? So we hit the switch, and it's back up, right? So dude dies. Now I've also increased my HP to 10 for just demo purposes, just so that I have a little bit more survivability. But obviously in the very beginning, you know, you're gonna have like very little HP. I'm playing around with the size of the zoom in too, because I don't imagine many people are gonna play with the zoom. Like this is more for like people like myself, as well as people who might want to play around with this sort of thing. It looks pretty good when zoomed out this far, but it's also a question of figuring out, like, because obviously for smaller dungeons we would want to be more zoomed in, but for larger ones we might be zoomed out. But I think it's also going to be largely user preference. So one of the things, you know, we might be able to do soon is get, you know, some basic menu systems rolling where like you press I to bring up your inventory, or you press another key to pull up like the system menu where you can change different things. You know, like as an example, I want the color of these HUDs to be configurable, both the background and the foreground. So where do we go from here? Oh yeah, so blocking, of course, works, right? Also, I added a little numeric counter next to the messages to let you know how many more messages, or like what message you're currently on, if there end up being stacked messages for that particular turn. So as an example, we picked up the shield. So if we hit S to block, I feel like there's a little bit of a glitch with, yeah, there's definitely a bit of a positioning glitch with the shield. So like, I'm facing the top right. So first of all, logically, at the moment, it doesn't make sense, because if you hit block, no matter what direction you're facing, it's going to be a successful block, right? So like, I could be facing backwards, and it's a successful block, and I'm like, nah, that probably doesn't make sense. And also, it might be such that blocking ends up being like an automatic thing. Like, I don't know necessarily that it's going to be an action that you necessarily take, but I also think blocking should have some sort of effect, such as maybe pushing the enemy back when it's successful, right? Like maybe it like knocks them back by like one block, and that way you have a buffer zone to be ready for them to attack. There's a lot of stuff like this I have to think about. Like, you know, what if you have orcs surrounding you on all sides? Like, it wouldn't make sense that you should be able to block every single one of those orcs, right? You got to be able to pick one, try to block that one, and then deal with the consequences of getting hit by the others. So lots of different things like that. Raylib and Lisp. Yeah, that's right. You were the one talking about Lisp the other day. I think that's crazy. But you know what? I'm all about people doing crazy things in general, especially if it comes to like, you know, off the beaten path, you know, type, you know, programming. And you know, for a long time, Lisp was like the dominant force at MIT. A lot of people don't know that. The original book that they used to teach programming at MIT was one called The Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, otherwise known as SICP, which was a meme for a long time, but a lot of people legitimately believe in it as a introduction to like writing programs from a really high level. It's a really good talking point to think about what's the best way for someone to come into programming to begin with. Like, it's very easy for people who've been like deep in the industry for a long time to think about that kind of thing and say, oh, it's so easy to get started or whatever. But a lot of people are honestly intimidated. And there's so many different ways to get started. How does anyone know what is the best way to get started? And the fact of the matter is there's probably no one best way. And a lot of people have different opinions. But there are certainly better pathways than others. And your entry point can be made easier or more difficult depending upon what your starting language is chosen to be. All right, so we got this stuff going, and our dude's dead now. And we can hit that switch, walk by, and we're good. So the title of this stream is Dungeon Work. So yeah, this file is old, and I haven't done a whole lot to Dungeon Floor in general. I started renaming a lot of the functions to have the df predicate to indicate that it's a function belonging to the Dungeon Floor object suite. This is essentially a small API that allows you to script dungeon creation. And one of the goals of growing this API is to be able to provide more flexible static and dynamic creation of different Dungeon Floor environments. So as an example of this, I mean by static, someone working on the game or designing a dungeon can write their own functions that use these functions in order to perform different actions on the dungeon map itself. Or rather the dungeon floor. There is a distinction. So the dungeon itself is composed of dungeon floors. This is the definition of a dungeon. It's a double pointer of dungeon floors with a number of floors, a total number of floors, a current floor, and whether or not the dungeon is locked. In other words, we typically lock the dungeon when we're creating floors and adding them, but then when we're done adding, we can unlock it. I may have had that. I may have said that backwards. I think we unlock the dungeon when we're adding floors to it, and then we lock it when we don't want it to be modifiable anymore. So there's a lot of functions in here too that are not to be called outside of this function. So we do need to like clean up the .h so that a lot of these functions are like for instance malloc. This should be never called outside of this. So we're going to go ahead and make this static. We're going to pop that up at the top. And we're going to comment out that. And to show that this still builds, boom. So this is like a very small incremental tweak, right? Like if I wanted to be very, very precise about the changes I make today, and I do, we're going to slowly wipe out all of the functions that should not be called outside of dungeon floor, and we're going to actually build new functions that make the process of creating these new floors, more easy. Perhaps also today, we might be able to do some work on pressure plates, because I want to get some other assets in. As an example of this, oops. We got some assets. These are like what I'm calling props that we can place at different points in the dungeon. In addition to this, we have some functional things such as we got a door in both closed and open state. We've got a chest. In both closed and open state as well. And getting just those features in is going to make the game feel that much, much more rich. Not to mention, it also offers that much more things that we can add in the procedural generation process. So, dungeon floor really kind of controls like the layout of the dungeon more so than the props or the entities or the things like that. Switches can be thrown in kind of easily using the dungeon floor itself. All right, so as another example of this, let's do init rect, right? Let's do init rect 2 as well. Now, count walkable might be used outside of the dungeon floor, as well as DF center. So we might want to hold on to those. Get upstairs and get downstairs, we definitely need that outside in order to figure out where to place the player. We'll also need those when we start building out pathfinding, because we're going to want to be able to return location objects in order to figure out destinations. Type at might be useful outside. Set tile area. Now this is a definite static, right? Set tile area range. Yeah, all of these. Set tile area. We'll start with area range. Okay, let's build that. All right, everything's still good. df add at and remove at, those are both pretty important external functions. Tile at, that's also. Now, if we were to do any sort of modifications to the dungeon after it's created, those functions we would want outside of dungeon floor. We would want to have access to them, so that we wouldn't want to make them static. Init test. All right. It's a pretty small object. Keeping shit tight. Hell yeah. You're a pixel artist if you ever want help building out the tile set. That's good to know. So I've bought a pack from this, what is it? I'm gonna pull his name up right now, hold on. So the asset pack that I'm using comes from this gentleman here. I don't know if he puts, oh yeah, Krishna Palacio. So I've actually Patreon to this guy for a few months now, and every month he's dropping new stuff. It's all really high quality and delivered in a relatively organized fashion. It took me a bit of kind of a learning curve to figure out how I need to take these assets and then organize them in my own product. I can't wait to apply effects like this. That's gonna be fucking sick. But it's been an interesting journey figuring out how to organize things, put them on screen, actually get them animating and moving, and being able to start scripting out some of this stuff, because there's a lot of stuff here. I don't have a fraction of the things that are offered in the mega pack. I got the mega pack when it was on sale for like 80 bucks, and it comes with so many different things. That's right, Grace. It does. Here. You want some of this? There you go. So I feel like it was a pretty good value, but the cool thing is that now that I have bought the license for the mega pack, I have the ability to modify any of those assets as I see fit. So it is totally viable that another pixel artist comes into the foray, or into the fray, whatever you want to call that, and we actually do tweaking to certain things as I need. Totally a possibility in the future. One of the reasons I'm really happy I bought the asset pack is it now takes the burden of me having to decide on graphics off my shoulders. My dog might be getting antsy, so depending on her temperament in the next few minutes, we may or may not step outside. One thing I do know is I need a drink. Give me one sec. These are pretty good. Dead Billionaire iced tea, or tea lemonade. I like those Arnold Palmers, and I'm trying to get my sugar intake under control. Not very well though, because I still put a lot in my coffee. I also have a very bad sweet tooth. The sweet tooth has been satiated by dates recently. I'm not a Muslim, but I gotta say that it's a good way to break a fast. Uh-oh. Can y'all hear? Sometimes it's not clear what she needs. But usually just to be safe, because, you know, obviously I don't want her having an accident on me. Yeah, those days are not great. Because it takes a lot of time to, you know, clean up and everything. Not to mention, you know, if it happens on something like this new couch, goddamn, what a tragedy that would be. That's why I've invested in pee pads and protections and stuff like that, so that it's a lot easier to deal with if it does happen, because it does happen every so often. The fact of the matter is, I have to carry her inside and outside to do business because she is an elderly girl. And while she's still doing pretty good, when she has to go, she has to go. And she's been kind of Pavloved into this situation where if I pick her up and then as soon as I put her down somewhere, she makes an effort to actually do something, which can be kind of convenient on one hand, but on the other, you have to be kind of cognizant as to when the last time she's gone has been. I've been doing this for years. Like, I've legit been picking her up and carrying her in and outdoors for literally years at this point, which is good exercise. You know, that's why I never gain weight. I carry a 20-pound football indoors and outdoors like 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. That's probably more than most Americans get, so I think I'm doing pretty good there. Do y'all mind if I take a 5-minute break to go take her out real quick? Y'all don't mind, right? Not that y'all have a choice. It's kind of her decision. But I thought I would just let you know before I put this sign up. So let's go do that real quick. Next time I'll try to put some music on for you. Okay, she's gonna be done with that in like a minute. All right, where did I leave off? We haven't gotten shit done. Appreciate y'all being patient. No, these are not the greatest of streams. I'm working on it. It's pretty difficult to find a solid block of time during the day right now. Gracie's already a handful, but little Nano over here is a force to be reckoned with, especially at night. Okay, what did we just do? So I started creating these test simple functions that the goal is quite simple, no pun intended. Each one does a different little grow on the previous function. As an example, simple starts off with creating an 8x8 room set up with randomly assigned stone tiles. And then we assign stairs. That's it. Well, the main core of it is these two functions right here. This basically creates the room, and then this selects an appropriate tile to place in upstairs, and then another one to place it downstairs in a different location. So assign stairs actually is a great candidate for us to break up into two separate functions, because currently what it does is assign both upstairs and downstairs. So one thing that we might want to do is construct and return a list of locations that are like appropriate upstairs, downstairs locations, right? Are you done? Are you done? Because I'm in the middle of talking about how I gotta fix this function. It's very big and ugly. It's a big, ugly function. I gotta clean it up. We're gonna break it down into smaller functions. These functions are gonna be clean, very efficient. They're gonna achieve the same goal that this function currently does, but we're gonna do so in a more intelligent way. So, as an example of this, get possible stairs location, get possible stairs tile counts. Hey, right here. So that's step one. Now step two, we need to create a function for this. Hey, Grace, there's no reason to talk like that. I'm live on the internet. We had Din Din. I took you out to pee-pee. Gave you a snack. You got Wawa. I'm within arm's reach. Hey, come here. Hey, come here. What? What, honey? Hi, what? Hi, hey, Grace. Oh no. Oh no, it's not a void. You're not smelling anything, Grace, because I haven't cooked nothing. She always is so demanding with food. She'll even straight up imagine that she's smelling stuff. She gets a lot of treats, don't worry. She gets plenty of food. She used to get a lot more food when Grandma was feeding her from her plate. I think she's dropped about 4 pounds since then. A sign upstairs, let's see. Grace, you gonna make me take you back out? Because I'm gonna be working online for a little bit, no matter what, whether or not I take you out again. We just went out like 10 minutes ago. I even told everyone that we went. Hey. Got to bump into the cat. Hey, hey. What? You'll hear how she's talking to me right now? Yeah, you. I don't have anything, Grace. You had your snacks. You had din din. I've still got to eat later. Yeah. Unless you got more business to go do. In which case we'll go do it. I'll make sure that we're out for long enough. Okay. You've made it clear. Everybody, I hate to keep signing off like this, but this is what I deal with. So any and all support greatly appreciated, because very difficult to work in these conditions. I love this dog to death, but it's times like right now where I really want to get rolling when she starts demanding attention for one reason or another. So we will be back as soon as we can. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's try this out here. Yo, yo. Let's see. Okay. See, this would be a good setup for just like, just chatting, streaming, or like watching stuff. A little bit less pressure. Let's try to do some game dev right now. Now we just wrote that new function. Instead of having to call all this, we can actually just and we have another problem here. Actually, it's not really that big of a problem. All right, well, we've got all the animals blocked in. My drink is all the way over there, though. That's annoying. Nano let me know I'm not allowed to have drinks on the couch anymore because he liked to scratch and shake the couch, and we got a lot of coffee on the arm over there. So there you go. Let's see that this much still works before we continue stubbing this out. Okay, good. Wait, that wasn't a sufficient test. Well, it's placing the stairs, so I mean, that's good enough, really. Oh yeah, wait, I forgot. We gotta turn that back on. Oh, oops. And yeah, the pathfinding on the orcs is totally crap right now. Oh yeah, so in the process of doing this, one of the things I wanted to do is like we want to be able to separate the placement of the upstairs and the downstairs, and we also want to be able to specify specific regions that we would want the up and downstairs to even appear. So there's a number of different functions that I have to write in order to achieve this. That's a lot cleaner. I mean, we've already made several steps forward just doing that. Yeah, what's happening? Let's see. Okay, so one of the things we can do is we can copy all these to make an area version. I don't know what you think you're smelling, Grace, but there's nothing I can do about it. I already have to deal with you like this every time I want to make anything to eat in the kitchen. Let alone when you're imagining smells or smelling something from a neighbor. But if a neighbor's cooking anything right now, it's too dim for me to smell. Why don't you just relax, baby? gotten shit done today. Whoa yourself. What's up, system? Alright, so we gotta modify this function. So actually we need a get possible stair count in area version as well. Is that good? Impossible stairs count in area, right? That way we can pass that to that. It's gonna be a similar modification process. Oh, no, it has to be count to fun. Get possible stairs locations and area. So effectively, we should be able to call that new function like that. And this is the idea behind like good composable functions, is that, you know, like if we wanted to like call this for the whole dungeon, by creating this function, this effectively acts as a wrapper to calling this function with these parameters. So so like we were working on assigned stairs, and one of the reasons we want to do that is I want to do a assign stairs in area, because that way I can do something like explicitly set where the stairs go if I'm like composing out a very simple dungeon floor, right? Like so this is a good example because the stairs have conveniently been placed on both sides of this separated room. So this is kind of cool because I mean, this is just randomly generated, but ideally I have functions that achieve this same effect, right? Like I would want to be able to call two separate functions. One of them assigns the upstairs, the other assigns the downstairs. But I don't want to necessarily manually select which tile is the upstairs and downstairs. Maybe I want to randomly select a tile within a certain area. So one of the things with the creation of this particular room structure that I'm doing right here, in simple 4, and actually this is not correct. Assigned stairs should really be one of the last things that happens. The reason being, if any of the like for instance, let's say you select the stairs in two random tile locations, and then later on you change the type of a tile that happens to be the stairs on accident to another tile type, like a wall. Unless we attach some feature to like make a tile immutable after we've set it, or we make that some sort of toggleable feature to make like certain tiles static and then be able to like turn that on and off so that we can change them or something, then we can, you know, potentially place the stairs wherever. But you have to be careful about this because you could also create a situation where the stairs are inaccessible. So I'm trying to like maintain mindful like placement, and part of this is creating composable functions that allow me to make those kinds of decisions, so that effectively whenever it's like for the things that we know we're gonna have to do every single time in the dungeon, like assign stairs, depending on how the dungeon is composed, depends on which function you might want to call. This setup might be good. Y'all can hear me typing. I can kind of relax a little bit, but honestly, leaning back like this is not my favorite, like, get deep into the heart of things work mode type situation. I kind of like doing this. Like having something a little bit tougher help reinforce my back a bit. If you haven't noticed, I got a bit of a legit hunchback situation going on. That scoliosis, man. Hunchback in Notre Dame and shit. All right. Assign stairs, right? So actually, whenever we get the possible stairs, we need a possible upstairs count and a possible downstairs count. All right, so I'm gonna rename these. This is gonna break a lot of stuff. I'm gonna fix it in the name of optimizing for the LLM. As I mentioned last stream, I created a tool that is helping me keep track of the number of tokens that my project is expected to require when submitting to an LLM session. half the reason I'm doing this is we actually need assign upstairs and an assign downstairs. We also need an area. So for instance, now you just call that get possible stair locations. Possible upstairs. So get possible upstairs locations and area. Yeah, we could just copy that. Assign upstairs. So we would first get the possible upstairs count. Yep, possible up. So we have to replace that function now. My example. Wait. Oh, so we have to fix this function first. Whoops. Okay. All right, that looks good. So now we have upstairs separated from, because originally we had one function to assign both. Now we have two functions and several different versions of them that allow for a bit more flexibility as I'm building this thing out. Take all of that, drop it down here, and then so now we have an assigned downstairs an area. We should also go ahead and create their counterpart functions that we can omit the base parameters. Fucking A. These goddamn Twitch bots, man. Ban yo dumbass. The fuck off my stream. That's right. Yeah, the one Twitch viewer is a bot coming to advertise some bullshit that's gonna end up getting fucking nanad on. If you catch my drift. Generally speaking, if you're going to be assigning stairs, easiest way to do it is to just call this function, because what this will do is to select from all the tiles in the dungeon. So in our various tests where we call that function, it's all about placement, but now we have the option to be able to call assign stairs, or assign upstairs, or assign downstairs, or assign upstairs an area, or assign downstairs an area, which would be very useful because in this test we have 2 separate rooms, and we can actually, like for instance up here, we actually create these 2 rooms and they're joined by the trap tile. In a previous test, I separate the rooms and there's no way to actually like get there. So as an example of this, we can call simple2. Uh-oh. Where is this happening? Off by 1, huh? Count 2 was 31. So it's obviously omitting the upstairs tile. So there's a bug in get possible downstairs count. Oh yeah, because this should be downstairs. There we go. Okay, so as an example, both of the upstairs and the downstairs have randomly generated on the right room over here, and as you can see, there's no way for these enemies to get to me. they are totally fucked. Which is great because I don't have to worry about dying. So there you go. We're winning. So the point I was getting at was that now that we have these new functions, updating that to do this properly so that we actually get an upstairs in one room and a downstairs in another, it's going to be like this. Instead of just calling assign stairs here. Because now there will be no stairs and I'll have nowhere to place the player and the game will totally crash out on me. Let's find out what happens just for fun and see if we can't code defensively to prevent this. Yeah, so it's going to yell at us every time. We don't really have any information telling why it's not able to find the situation here. 672 of liblogic. So it's attempting to create an NPC. Let's find out what type of NPC. Oh, and this, I'm surprised this shit built at all. Alright, now we fix that. Actually, let's clean. Lib draw on 192. There we go. Yeah, so it's still out of bounds, right? Because we haven't assigned any stairs, and I have it set up so that the hero spawns on the upstairs for the first floor. So in order to assign stairs properly at this point, moment of truth. This should work. This is relatively easy code. Uh-oh. are calling simple too. Okay. So it's definitely doing upstairs. However, assigning the downstairs. Oh, we never did count an area. That's it. Okay, much better. Although, that work is blocking that sword. About to get fucked up over here. Oh yeah, I'm totally dead. Fuck. However, it looks like the test is working. As you can see, the stairs are on the right, the downstairs are on the right side. We have no way to get to them, but I am spawning on the left-hand side now. So if we wanted to flip that around so that the upstairs spawns in the right room and the downstairs spawns on the left, that's very easy now. Now all I have to do is this. I can just swap these two functions. And now I am totally separated from those dudes. They can't hurt me. And that's fucking awesome. So the test is this is great. This has been an awesome coding session so far. Or at least, yeah. I'm losing steam. I'm gonna end up having to take a break and get some food. Deal with my cat and my dog whining at me while I eat. Figure out what the next steps in this process are. But this was actually a big goal for today, was to start getting some of this composability down, because there's a lot to build out with regards to actually building the dungeons. And as I've talked about today, my vision for this is to be able to have a set of composable functions that we can start stitching together, making randomized decisions about when a room is generated, when a switch gets placed down, when a trap gets placed down. And even then, we don't even know all of the different doodads that we might use, or the different gadgets. I want to call them dungeon gadgets, right? Like, each one of these gadgets is going to be designed to do different things that essentially give us the ability to make really cool dungeons. So for instance, let's do something like that right now, right? Let's step through here, clean stuff up. It's not always clear to me where the syntax highlighting actually breaks at, but I know it doesn't like me starting from the bottom, so maybe that's it. It looks clean. So one of the goals, okay, so like okay, simple test 3 is a good one. So let's call simple 3. Uh-oh. 335. Oh, it's tile count. Okay, so we've joined these two rooms with a single tile right here. This is kind of a good pattern because interconnectedness of rooms is important. We might want to do something like create a hallway or create some other sort of structure. So let's see how easy that is, right? Like, we go to simple 3. We're going to copy it. This is going to be now simple 5. So we first create a room. The separating distance is now going to be a larger number, right? We're going to need something besides just setting one tile in order to join these rooms. As you can see, there's a pretty solid distance between these two rooms, and they have no way for us to actually join them up until now. So over in simple 5, we can actually, in the same way that we were setting a single tile there, we can start there and then start there, and because the separating distance is 10, x, y, separating distance, then a height of 1, and we can randomly select the tiles as we go. Look at that. We got a joined up room here. What happens? I mean, obviously you know what happens when I play. Feels good. So this is what I meant by like composability, right? Like by building out these smaller functions that really seem kind of boring and not all that much fun, and you have to spend time like really perfecting them and getting them like really shaped up and doing exactly what you want them to, because once you have enough of those, you start stitching them together in this way, because we can start building out much bigger structures. So I have an idea. Alright, this is going to be a really good test for GPT-4.1 Mini. So given, you know, the previous conversation and what info it has about the game and the code that I just fed it, and this little description, hopefully it's going to shit out a new C function that I can just copy and paste into the game, call it, and see what actually gets generated. Yoink. So let's see what it gave us. Oh, fucking awesome. Oh, that's so good. It did pretty much exactly what I told it to. Oh, this is good. This is real good. Fucking A, dude. What do y'all think about that? Good job, GPT. Okay, now we're cooking with something. When we start to have a dungeon this big, we really will benefit from better pathfinding on the enemies. But, like, you know, there's a pattern that we're aiming for here, right? Like, one of the ways that I was originally doing this kind of thing when I was first making this, it wasn't specifically this game, but basically the same idea was still in my head 12 years ago when I was actually getting paid to make an iOS game that I was titling Project A at the time. Speaking of, I am totally open to title ideas for this game because I'm going to need to come up with one for the Raylib showcase, which, you know, I'm going to have to get a video, and I want to get as many good assets into this game as I can before that time so that we have a bit more to show than just this, because a lot of stuff that I still have to build out is really non-visual to a point. As you saw earlier, a lot of the functions I wrote and stuff really isn't like super clear why it's needed until you see the end result. It's a lot more visually stimulating to be able to just drop assets in, have things appear right away. But sometimes you have to build things, you have to make sure that the groundwork, that the core, the foundation is solid. So another question that I have for GPT Okay, so just asking GPT to make its own decisions given its knowledge of the API that I have available. It looks like it just created the same thing. Oh no, he created a central big room? Interesting. Okay. So, hopping back over to Simple 6, dropping a new function at the bottom, making sure that we have visibility up at the top. And then let's take a look at an LLM built dungeon, a very limited small one. Oh shit. Logical extension off of the previous idea. Fucking nice. So it created one big room and I got assigned into the stairs, which are over here. Orcs are of course all at the top because the way the placement algorithm, it's totally like first location right now, but this is still pretty good. So there's a lot of potential here for the dungeon to essentially get composed in this sort of way, right? So like taking a look at what it did here. So I want to ask it. This is great. You're killing it, my dude. I am curious about that last function. Is there any reasonable way for us to pull out some of these repetitive code patterns into their own functions so that we have a bit shorter of an overall function in the end. I'm looking to make this API really composable. Can you write df piss break. Piss break. Woo wee. Well wee, I gotta pee. Hand-built room shapes to spawn to. Oh yeah, definitely. Great suggestion, actually. I will say more about that in a moment. Yeah. I was going to say, one of the cool things we can do as a result of this composability is we're able to, like, how you say, what do you say? Hey, let's say hello to everyone. Look at that. This is Nano, everybody. Nano, say hi to the internet. Who's a good kitty? When you're not being a total little shit. The motherfucker got me in my pinky and twice on my thumb yesterday. I type with this thumb. This is the only finger I have on this hand to type with, and he is trying to cut it off. I don't appreciate that. You're trying to make me not be able to type or program anymore? He's a good cat, though. He's a young boy. He's purring. Good kitty. I got him a scratching post today. I look forward to catching him in action on it. Hi. Oh, big stretch. Yep. This is our third dojo individual, and it's almost been a week since we got him. He has an important job coming up in the future, so we're just prepping him for that role. But he's been interesting. You know, my days are full, and I'm trying to figure out a good workflow to not only build out this game, but also do a bunch of hacking that I've been doing on the sidelines. I've got a bunch of reports I got to write still, and a bunch of endpoints I've got to assess, and all that kind of good stuff. Figuring out the day-to-day workflow is interesting, but you know what? It's kind of nice because I am in control of it, mostly, except for these animals. So as far as hand-built rooms, Dulce, the big thing was like, one of the nice parts about these composabilities is I can write functions that do specific shapes. So for instance, we could create like a diamond room, right? So like, but that's still like the same thing. It's only slightly more composable. right, so I mean, it's really not that much more composed as a result. It was not exactly what I was looking for, but I like how it starts with the center and then it makes rooms off of that center. So like one of the things that I did to kind of like, I forget what I studied. There was a lot of different articles I read about maze generation and map generation where one of the things they did was they basically create a big list of rooms and keep track of like their X, Y, width, and height in a big list. And then once you've created those rooms and they're moved to be sufficiently not touching each other anymore, you then connect all of those rooms using various hallway generation methods. And then it does a whole bunch of other stuff. Like that's when you would attach all of your doodads. That's when you would attach any sort of dungeon details. Definitely losing steam, so I should probably consider calling it. The last thing I wanted to try oh shit. Wait, I forgot. right, making a diamond-shaped room. Cool. Oh, sick. All right, so it's written us a test for the diamond function that it's written. No, oh wait, we never called it. There we go. Oh, interesting. It didn't create the top part, and it was also like slightly off by one. Diamond-shaped room. Okay, okay. That's what I think it meant to do. Or it's kind of closer, but okay, so it needs a little bit of work on this function, right? But custom shape though, right? A little bit better than just squares. Uh-oh. I have spawned up at the top. Uh-oh. 90. All right, let's see if it fixed it. Almost. Why did you choose 9 by 7? No. That should be 9 by 9. There we go. That's a perfect diamond. That's a pretty tight room. Oh man. But that's exactly what we want to see though. So any smaller, it's going to be really fucking cramped. Shit, that's a cramped ass room, dudes. What do y'all think about that? Y'all gonna be able to survive that shit? If I fucking throw you in a tight ass room like that? With 3 badass orcs guarding a shield and a sword, you ain't gonna be able to handle that shit? Are you fucking kidding me? No, sir. Yeah, you got no way out of this one. I'd like to find a way to be able to offer a way out of this situation, but without no magic spells or no other items or any other traps around that you could use to your advantage, or anything like that, you're kind of shit out of luck here. And hopefully I can prevent impossible to beat situations during the procedural process. It's going to be a thing that has to like evolve over time. Like I imagine at launch, whenever that is in the far distant future, there will be bugs, and people will report those bugs, and I will fix those bugs as I get those reports. And anything I can catch ahead of time, of course, I will take care of myself. The point I was getting at there was with the diamond-shaped room. Will allow you to make diamond-shaped rooms of different sizes, or differing widths and heights, but to make a perfect diamond shape, you have to make them equal. So lots of oh man, we have blown up the token size as a result of writing all these tests. These have all been successful tests though. The first init test was like a very big effort at procedurally generating lots of different rooms, attaching traps, and trying to do so in a pattern. But then I was like, nah, we need to step back. We got to start working on smaller functions, smaller initial rooms, and then we'll build up to that. Because ideally, things scale in an appropriate way where, like, for instance, at some point I'm going to introduce like food and hunger, and you're going to have to eat, and if you can't find food, then you're fucked. And like for instance, with the placement of the shield and the sword, like, in order to prevent like an unwinnable situation in the very beginning of the game when you have no equipment, and that first goal that you need to get is get some gear immediately. Where was I going with that? I want to make sure that I spawn things in such a way that, like, for instance, if you're at 0-0 and there's a orc at like 2 units above you, then I want you to be able to get to a sword in one move to give you the opportunity to do things correctly and be able to attack that orc and kill him without getting hit. Similarly, I would also want the shield to be within reach, so that so long as you don't waste those turns that I'm giving you, you're able to move to the items and get them quickly enough to be able to use them and survive a situation. That's what I was getting at. Okay. I'm just taking a break here. am I going to make? Oh, yeah, I've got shrimp marinating in teriyaki sauce since last night. And I've also got Checkers French fries that I've been meaning to make. And I wanted to do shrimp and chips for a while now. So I am going to munch the fuck down. And we will get back to some good old-fashioned game dev in X amount of time. You parse room shapes out from JSON rather than text. Yeah, but then I have to parse JSON, and I did some experimenting with like rapid JSON, and I forget what the other big C++ JSON library was back when I was doing this in C++. That ended up being really cumbersome and a huge mental fucking burden. Like, if I'm going to do stuff in JSON, I might as well write this whole thing in Python, which, if there are Python Raylib bindings, I might actually fuck around with that. But at the same time, I don't know, like, because I've used Pygame in the past, and I thought the API for that's pretty good. That could be a future thing. We could end up going back and doing stuff in Python. But I also like the C interface, and if I want to create like custom drawing stuff, I could create my own binary file format or just do things in a text file, and that would be pretty straightforward. There's a lot to do. Like, even outside of just dungeon generation, you know, there's a lot of work to do on entities. There's a lot of work to bring in the new assets. Just use CJSON library. Yeah. I mean, if it ends up being more efficient to do it that way, that might be something that's an option in the future, to like compose the drawing capabilities through some sort of external interface like that. At the end of the day, it's not like eating up all that much code in terms of like binary size or anything like that. As I showed you earlier, the size of the dynamic libraries are like less than 200K each, and the main game executable is like 32 kilobytes. So it's not really a big problem to like just try stuff for a while, you know, until we figure things out. But I've definitely considered text files for things like enemy definitions, because at the moment, the way that we compose entities is also very raw dog. So we have a bunch of different functions for setting different attributes on the entity, as well as checking to see if they have weapon or shield, making new weapons and shields, making new NPCs, getting HP, getting items in inventory, adding items to inventory, removing them, checking if they're alive, etc. There's still a lot of cleanup to be done with this too. But it works pretty well. Everything that we've integrated so far, I've gotten down to a pattern so that whenever we want to add something new beyond attacking, blocking, successful blocking, being damaged, being dead, we'll be able to do that. There's other animations and actions in the asset pack. They're all in different locations though. I was looking at one earlier that involved the smithing profession. So like if we, you know, end up getting to that point where you could actually have a workshop where you actually create and craft items, I think that would be really sick. In the beginning, I mean, this, you know, we want to keep things really simple. Like, especially, like, this is really a good opportunity for me to think about my dream inventory system. Like, inventory management is a problem across all RPGs, and I think about it a lot because I play a lot of different RPGs and how different games have done things over the years, and there's a lot of shared similarities and a lot of differences. And I can think of, I mean, the one that comes to mind is like really being fucking hateful is Skyrim's. The way that you manage inventory in Skyrim is god fucking awful. Monster Hunter does it so much better. Dark Souls does it so much better. Elden Ring, I'm not sure does it as well as Dark Souls did it. But one thing that I noticed in particular with Skyrim is that, especially if you have like a lot of stuff in your main chest, it can take a very long time to actually cycle through stuff. And I think the reason for this is because of the way that they're actually storing things in memory. So one of the goals, obviously, because this is like a really simple 8-bit 2D game, inventory management style where we have a grid of items that are present. There will probably be a pretty good limit to the amount of items that you can carry. I don't plan on having things like weight or anything like that in this very early iteration of the game. That might be a future thing. I also want to do Sokoban mechanics. That's something I'm really looking forward to, and in order to do that, we have to get pressure plates working in the dungeon. So as you can see, I've kind of got a bit of a scatterbrain as far as all of the different ideas and things that have to be done, and it's really easy to like rabbit hole down one particular direction and get a whole bunch of things done, but then you still have to backstep at some point, move away from that thing, and then move on to like another part of the game that you have to work on. And so we're just kind of in that process right now. I'm in the process of bouncing back and forth between the different areas after having spent a lot of time really getting the animation loop perfected for the existing actions that I have. We've moved on to dungeon stuff. I have not played Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. Yeah, there's a lot of really good tile-based RPGs in various different kinds. Etrian Odyssey, definitely one I've enjoyed and wish I could go back to and have the patience for. Actually, there's a whole bunch of Switch games. I'm probably going to end up doing a lot more game streams as well as I work on stuff, because I do get a lot more viewership when I'm actually working on games, but I like to chill out and just play games too. I've got plenty of internet speed and time over here, and I've got a big ass library of games that I want to work through, stuff that I need to beat. Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. Oh, well, you got my attention with the style. Let's see. Oh, okay. So it's like Oh, it's a much older game too. Yeah, this is definitely in the direction of stuff that I'm really into. Um, I like that. Thank you for introducing that to me, Dulce. See, there's so many fucking roguelikes out there that, you know, nobody's ever heard of that are probably fucking phenomenal. Um, I would like to do more playing of other roguelikes and do more long like play streams where I talk about games and stuff. So definitely on the agenda. Like I said, it is getting up there in time, so we're gonna call it. Let me make sure I check my code in before we go. Okay, we're good. So I've been persisting these long sessions over multiple days, and at the end of each day, um, once I decide that we've completed a task or whatever, I'll have it summarize what we've done, um, and that way, like over time, like it's got a progressively updated history, um, and I feel like this is a pretty good workflow. It definitely helps to have like a second brain of sorts in order to like stay focused and kind of like keep the ball rolling. But you can't trust it to do everything. But if you give it enough information, it can definitely take a pretty good stab at things. It's just important not to blow over the utility of these LLMs and whatnot. Okay. All right, everybody. It is time to make something to eat, chill out, play some games, call it a night. We'll, I'm going to do some brainstorming. I might even take tomorrow off from streaming, and we'll get back at it over the weekend. Or we'll play some games or something. We might not take a break from streaming. We might game stream or something, but expect more work in the game dev department real soon, because nothing's stopping us right now except my stomach.